Welcome back, everyone. So for today, we will just be going over the activities that we have left at the last part of the Tuples video. So if you haven't watched that video, I highly encourage you to watch them first, as we will be using some of the items we have learned there to deal with the exercises. So the three exercises that we will be solving today will be shown from my perspective, how I'm going to answer them or how I'm going to deal with them. But take note that there is no one correct answer for these exercises. So let's begin. The first activity that we have to do is to remove empty tuples. We are to create a function that accepts the list of tuples and remove any empty tuples. So here's a Python solution that we can do. So I'm gonna put in another blank cell here by clicking A for above, and let's write a function that removes the empty tuples from a list of tuples. So you may have recalled that in one of our discussions around the common operations for tuples, we have use the len function, the built-in len function. That's what we're going to use here, so that we'll be able to filter out those that are empty. Their len must be 0, right? So okay, so let's name the function remove empty tuples, and our parameter or our argument is the tuple list. So here, we first need to create an empty list to store non-empty tuples. So my students know that most of the time we do create an empty variable or a container variable. So because this is an empty list that will hold all our non-empty tuple, then it will be an empty or a blank list. Okay. Now we loop through each of the tuple because we want to check one by one if one of the elements inside the list are empty. So let's say for tuple, sorry, it's not a comment, for tuple in tuple list, we would check if the length of that item is not equal to 0, then we will append that tuple into the blank list or empty list. And after that, we will return our result. Okay, so we'll now test the function here. So let's say, for example, we have a test list of, first, we'll have an empty tuple, and then we'll have, let's say, a tuple of strings, then a tuple of float, and maybe a tuple of list. Okay, now what we need to do is now to get this test list as an argument to the function that we have just created here. And there you have it. We have in this result the exact list, but the empty tuples have been removed. So I've realized that the font for the code earlier was a little bit small for some of our audience, so I'm taking time here to show you a larger version of that. So please pause the video and get the necessary code that you need in this video. So for exercise number 2, we are to sort a list of tuples. We are to create a function that sorts a list of tuples containing a string and a float in descending order. Now, we likewise have discussed that tuples is one of the things or one of the tools that we use to manage, let's say, for example, inventory. And in this particular case, this is an example of, let's say you have here an item and maybe this is the price. So I'm not exactly sure if this is the correct price, but let's not think about that for now. What we just need to understand is that we have a list here with several items where the first element of a tuple is the inventory and the second element is the price. Now, if we're going to sort this one, we will be using a built-in function in Python called sorted. So just to give a brief example of how sorted is used, so for example, you have here, so you see it turned green because it's a built-in function. So let me just increase that as well. So it's a built-in function and you're to supply it with an item or a list. So for example here, let's have for integers 5, 7, 1, 2, and then maybe 19. And it gets sorted from least to highest, or from least to greatest. So if you want that order reversed, where you want it in descending order, yeah, so we'll have to supply it with the argument reverse and then just say true because it's descending. So now the largest number is what's found at the beginning of the list. This is likewise very helpful for strings. So for example, you have here a list of names. For example, for this one, the apple, and then for example, you have the cherry, and you have as well the banana. So sorted here would likewise sort it according to, of course, ascending. The default is the ascending order, so apple, banana, cherry. And if you want it to be reversed, then we would supply the argument reverse, and of course supply or answer or put in true in the reverse argument or parameter. And you see your cherry, banana, apple. Now, what about if you have something like this where you have two elements in a tuple, right? In this particular case, if we sorted the tuples list, it is sorting it according to the first element, apple, banana, and cherry. However, that might not be what the function is or the problem is asking us to do. So if it's actually ambiguous, it's not telling us whether we want to sort it based on the string or on the float value, right? But I'm assuming that for most of you, for most business use cases, that we might want to sort it according to, let's say, the value with the greatest, or for the tuple with the greatest price. So in that particular case, we want the price value to be the key by which the sorted function would act upon. So if we are to look at the price as the key by which our sorted function should sort according to ascending or descending order the list of tuples, then we might want to use the key argument. So recall, just a small review here, that if you put in a question mark after a function, it should give you some of its its doc string, and of course a help on that function. It will provide you the help on that function. Here we have the key. So we want to tell the sorted function that, well, please sort on this key. So to do that, we have to create a function first. So for example here, key for sorting, and we will supply here, for example, a tuple, and we want to return tuple 1. Okay, so what does this function do? This function is supposed to return this key, right? This is index 0, this is index 1, right? So if I put here index 0, I'm referring to the string, but I want it to be to return index 1, or the float. Okay, and now this argument for the key here, this one is looking for a function. Okay, so in that particular case, what I can do is, for example, sorted, and then here for the tuples list, I'm going to use the key for sorting as its key, meaning that I want Python to look at the index 1, or the second element of each tuple. Okay, and there you have it. So it's 1.5, 2.3, and 4.6. And if you want it to be in descending order, meaning from greatest, from highest to lowest, then just put in reverse. Okay, so now that we have it, we can now create the function. So in this particular case, what we can do is def sort tuples according to price, and we have here the tuples list. Okay, and we wanna return this one. All right, so therefore if we try that function here, sort tuples according to price, and of course we named it the tuples list, so we have it here, 4.6, 2.3, and then 1.5. So for this particular problem, this is a little bit more challenging because it's actually going to be a very long code. So here, we are given a list of students, grades, and groups, and we are to write a function that calculates the sum, mean, and median of grades per group. Again, I reiterate, if you haven't watched the video that we have created earlier, or we have made earlier, please do so, because I think some of the methods that we will be using to solve this will directly be lifted from that. Okay, so I'll fast forward this video, but for now we'll have to provide an example of tree lists. We have tree lists, list of students, grades, and groups. We have our tree list, students, grades, and groups. We can now perform, or rather create a function that will first group the particular grades according to whether they belong to groups A and B. But just a quick exercise on how to interpret this. Pay attention to the index of the particular elements belonging to each of the lists. So for example, for index 0, Bob belongs to group's index 0, or group A, and has a grade, which you can find here from the grades list, well, placed in index 0. Okay, so Bob belongs to group A and has a list of, or has a grade of 85. Same with Mary, belongs to group B and has a grade of 96. And for Elisa belongs to group A with a grade of 72. Okay, so this means that the particular index of, for example, the groups and the grades are very essential to solving this particular problem. So right now we'll create a grouper. So let's say, for example, grades grouper, and we have here the list of grades and then list of groups. Okay, in this particular case, first declare empty variables or list as containers. So call it group A, okay. Now we will create loop which will loop over the groups to determine which index belongs to groups A and which ones to group B. Okay, so for I in range then of groups, so we want to check if list of groups rather, because that's the argument that we have used here, or the parameter we have used here. If list of groups found in index I is equal to that of A, then group A dot append not the list of groups, but rather whatever grade is found in that index or placed on that index. So list of grades using that same index. Else, because we only have two groups, then it's group B this. Okay, and we can return group A and group B. So to check that, we can print but in this particular case, we first need to run this, okay, using the list that we have above. Notice that we didn't really need to use, or we didn't use the names list, because for this particular problem, we have no use for it, but we supplied it anyway because the problem told us so. Anyway, so here we'll assign, for example, group A. Maybe you want a different variable, group A grades, and then here also right, it will return, recall in the lesson that we have, it will return two variables, and we are assigning this variable to this variable. So this one should be group A grades and this one should be group A grades. Okay, so what happened? List of grades is not defined. Okay, sorry, so it's not the list of grades. We named this list simply as grades, so it's grades, and we named this as groups. Okay, so you can verify for yourself that this is actually correct. So for group A, so we have here, it's the first, third, and the last grade. So the first 85, 30, 78, and then the last is 72. 85, 78, 72, and that's what you have here, 85, 78, 72. You can test as well for B. It's the second and fourth and fifth, second, and then fourth and fifth, 96, 98, 82. 96, 98, 82. So now that we have the groupings here, and the groups of, well, the group grades are stored in this variable, we can now write functions, because the problem asks us to write functions that will calculate the sum, mean, and median. So I assume that it's all different functions, so not just one overarching function. So recall that in that video from the Tuples lesson, we imported, we asked help from the statistics module or package. So from statistics, import median and mean. Now, of course, now here we can create a function that calculates the sums, calculate sum, of course, for the grades. And then here we can just return sum of grades. You can calculate the mean. Sorry. And for the median, okay, so this tree function we can apply for each of the lists that we have. So what we'll do here is so we'll use this function, calculate sum. And for the parameter for grades, what we will be using is the group A grades. Here as well, we want to get the mean. It's the mean grade function. And the median, for the median, using the median function, okay, we apply it to the group A grades. Now if you want to print some well, border or divisor for this one, you can apply the same functions for group B, but change it here, B, group B grades, and this one. This is a lot easier. We have a Visual Studio Code, but nonetheless, one at a time. And there you have it. You can actually verify. The easiest one to verify is actually the median, because for the median grade, it's just, since we have only 3 items per group, right? It's really just the middle. So for the median here, you can see that, okay, so if you arrange this based from lowest to highest, you have 72, 78, and 85. So 78 should be the median for group A. And that's what you have here. For group B, if you arrange this from lowest to highest, it's 82, 96, 98. So the median should be 96. And you can actually test it here. It's 96. Okay, so maybe just do it group B. Okay, and there you have it. That wraps up our video for today. Hopefully these exercises help you strengthen your knowledge of tuples. Keep in mind that the solutions that we have explored is just one of many ways to approach these problems. In future videos, we'll discuss dictionaries and comprehensions or more advanced tools that can simplify or help you code more efficiently. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.